There's a powder sitting on a shelf at the feed store right now that costs $4 and kills any insect that crawls across it. Roaches, ants, fleas, bedbugs, silverfish. It has no smell, no warning label that matters, and you can rub it into a dog's coat or sprinkle it where a toddler crawls. And nothing happens to either of them. And the pest control industry in this country pulls about $16 billion a year out of American homes pretending that powder doesn't exist. $16 billion. That's the number for residential pest control alone last year. And the average family on a quarterly spray contract is handing over somewhere between $400 and $700 a year. For a man in a polo shirt to walk the baseboards with a tank of synthetic pyrethroid and leave a sticker on the fridge. Do that for 30 years and you've spent enough to buy a truck. For bugs. For a problem my father solved outside Macon, Georgia, with a 4-pound bag and a teaspoon. I'm Earl. My father was Harlan, and he kept a ledger, a real account book. Leather gone soft at the corners, every cent he made and spent and every trick he used to survive the years from 1929 to 1939. Written down in pencil that's still dark on the page. My mother Ada's in there too, in the margins. I read one entry per video and I tell you what it means because nobody else will. I came up not trusting a single thing that arrives by monthly bill, and I have a particular contempt for an expert who takes something a child could do and wraps it in a service contract. That's most of what this channel's about. Today it's bugs. Here's the entry. Harlan wrote it in the summer, July of 1934. Dusted the pantry and the hen house with fossil flour, 6 cents the scoop from the mill. Ants gone in 3 days, no more weevil in the meal, 6 cents. And then, off to the side, underlined twice so hard the pencil nearly tore through. 4 words. Dry, or it's useless. Hold on to that, we're coming back to it, because that one note is the difference between this working and you wasting an afternoon. Fossil flour, that's what they called it then. Today it's sold as diatomaceous earth, and the name tells you exactly what it is once somebody bothers to explain it instead of selling it to you. Millions of years ago, the lakes and oceans were full of microscopic algae called diatoms, and every one of them built itself a hard little shell out of silica, the same stuff as glass. When they died, those shells sank and piled up and turned into a soft white rock. We mine it, we grind it back into powder, and what you get looks like flour and feels like flour and to your fingers is nothing at all. Soft, harmless, but you're not the size of an ant. Under a microscope, every grain of that powder is a broken edge, sharp as a shattered window. An insect's body is sealed in a waxy shell that holds its water in. That's the only reason a bug doesn't dry out and die in an afternoon. When that insect walks through diatomaceous earth, the powder scratches through that wax coating. Thousands of tiny cuts, and then the bug does the rest itself. It dehydrates. The water leaves through every scratch, and it dies of thirst, usually within a few days. And there is nothing a roach can do about it, and nothing it can ever become immune to. You cannot evolve resistance to being physically cut open and dried out. That's the whole genius of it. It's not a poison, it's a mechanism. And a bug can't outsmart a mechanism. That's also exactly why it sits on the bottom shelf at the feed store, while the poisons get the displays and the commercials. You can't patent a rock. Think about that for a second. Diatomaceous earth has been mined and sold for over 100 years. There's no formula to own, no molecule somebody invented in a lab, no 20-year patent paying for a marketing department. It needs no license to apply. It has no model number. There is no quarterly visit, no refill, no subscription. You buy a $4 bag once and it kills bugs in your house for years. There is no money in that, none. And around the late 1940s, when the synthetic insecticide business exploded after the war, DDT and the chemicals that followed it, the whole industry reorganized itself around products you had to keep buying and a service you had to keep paying for. A bag of mined rock that lasts a decade doesn't fit a business that needs you on a recurring bill. So it quietly fell off the shelf at the front of the store and off the lips of every man who comes to spray your house. Not because it stopped working. It has never stopped working. It got buried because it can only be sold once. And this economy has no use for a thing it can only sell you once. That's the pattern. Once you see it, you'll see it everywhere. The durable thing pushed aside for the thing on a meter. So let me put the $4 bag in your hand and walk you through it. because by the end of this, you're going to feel like you've already done it. First, get the right one. There are 2 grades, and this matters. You want food-grade diatomaceous earth. It says food grade right on the bag. The other kind, pool grade, is treated with heat for swimming pool filters, and you do not want that one indoors. Food grade. A 4-pound bag runs about $4 to $7 at a feed store, a farm supply, or a garden center, and that bag is more than you will use this year. Buy one. While you're there, or out of the kitchen, grab a cheap plastic squeeze bottle. The kind a diner keeps ketchup in works perfectly. Or one of the little bulb dusters they sell for a couple dollars. That's your whole shopping list, under $10 total for the entire house. Now picture your kitchen. You're going to spoon a little of that powder into the squeeze bottle. Then you get down low where the bugs actually travel. Because bugs do not cross the middle of your floor, they run the edges. You lay the thinnest possible line along the back of the counter where it meets the wall. Behind the stove, under the refrigerator, in that warm, dark gap they love. Along the baseboards, around the pipes under the sink where they come up from below. You squeeze gently. You want a film you can barely see, not a snowdrift. This is the mistake everybody makes. They pour it on thick, and a bug will actually walk around a visible pile. A thin haze it can't see and can't avoid, and that's what cuts it. A faint dusting in every place a bug hugs the wall. Then the entry points. Where do they get in? Door thresholds, window tracks, the gap where a cable or a pipe enters the wall, the weep holes in brick. A light line of powder across every one of those is a barrier that doesn't wear out and doesn't wash off as long as it stays dry. For fleas, you work it down into the carpet with a broom and into the cracks of the floorboards. Leave it a day or 2, then vacuum. For an outdoor ant trail, you follow the line right back to where they're coming through and dust it. And here is Harlan's underlined note, the one that decides everything, dry or it's useless. Wet diatomaceous earth does nothing. The water fills in around those sharp edges, and the bug walks across damp clay and feels nothing at all. It only works dry. So you don't put it where it'll get rained on or splashed or wiped with a wet rag. You keep it in the dry hidden runs, behind, under, along, and if a spot gets wet, you wait for it to dry or you redo it. My father underlined that twice because he learned it the hard way, one wet summer. And it's the single thing that separates the people who say this works from the people who say it didn't. It works, they just got it wet. Now I told you I'd be straight with you, so here's what it won't do. It is not instant. A poison spray drops a roach while you watch. This doesn't. The bug walks through, then dies over the next few days as it dries out, so you need a little patience the first week. It also only works on contact, which means it won't reach a nest sealed inside a wall the way a bait might. It kills everything that travels, and over a couple weeks, that's the colony. But it's a siege, not a single shot, and it has to stay dry, which I've now said twice and will say a third time, because it's the whole game. Keep it dry or it does nothing. The one real safety rule, and it's the only one, don't make a cloud of it and breathe it in. It's silica dust, and like any fine dust, sawdust, flour, chalk, your lungs don't want a big cloud of it over and over. So apply it low and gentle so it stays put instead of puffing up into the air. And if you're doing a big area, wear a cheap dust mask. That's it. Once it's settled on the baseboard, it's completely safe. Your kids can crawl past it, your dog can sniff it. It does nothing to a mammal because we don't have a waxy shell to scratch through. We have skin and lungs, and we're 1,000 times too big. Just don't breathe the cloud while you're laying it down. Apply it low. Don't breathe the cloud, that's the whole of it. So look at what you just did. You spent $4 in an afternoon, and you took a job the industry sells for hundreds of dollars a year, and you did it yourself, with a rock, the way it was done before anybody figured out how to put bugs on a subscription. You're not on anyone's quarterly schedule now. You don't need the man in the polo shirt. You're the kind of person who reads the bag, learns the one thing that matters, and handles it. And that's the kind of person this country used to be full of and forgot how to be. You just remembered. Now I want to hear from you. Tell me in the comments where you're watching from, and tell me the last thing you paid a professional to handle that your grandfather would have laughed at paying for. The spray contract, the Ant-Man, the $50 service call for a problem a $4 bag solves. And if your family had its own version of this, a powder, a trap, a trick your grandmother swore by, put it down there. There are thousands of people reading these comments. And between us, we're putting back together a whole library of knowledge that got taken off the shelf on purpose. That's what these comments really are. If that's the work you want to be part of, people reclaiming the things that were quietly taken and sold back to us by the month, then subscribe and stand with the rest of us. We're not here for entertainment. We're here to take it back, one entry at a time. Next time, I'm opening the ledger to a method that put fence posts in Georgia clay that outlasted the men who set them. Wood you char and fire and rub with oil so it never rots. No chemical treatment, no replacement every few years, no money for the lumber-preserving business that wants you buying new boards forever. Charred and oiled wood. They don't teach it anymore, and you'll understand why once you see how long it lasts. It's all in the ledger.